do was write that first sentence. Dear Mr. Royal Hampton, I am a white woman in America. Because that's all you really need to say to get anybody riled up. Welcome to the Fade to Black podcast. I'm your host, Sunflower B. Rose, and today I'm being joined by the homie Fatimah Washington. Today we're doing a double feature, and we're going to be talking about the Wayans brothers' 2004 film, White Chicks, and Peyton Reid's 2000 film, Bring It On.
What's up, money? You got a problem? What you looking at my ass for? Nah, yo, hold my poodle. Hold my poodle. Hey, yo, what's up? Y'all got a problem?
Go Taurus! Go Taurus! Go Taurus! Tried to steal our bit, but you look like shit. But we're the ones who are down with it.
Your mother's ass is so hairy, it looks like Don King's about to pop out and say,
Only in America.
And now the winners of this year's National High School Cheerleading Championships, the East Compton Clovers from East Compton, California!
Fatimah, it's so great to have you here.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thank you so much, Sunny B, for just inviting me and just trusting me with the opportunity to kind of just kick it off with you. Thank you for trusting me to be the homie, you know?
Of course. I'm you've been a real one since the first day I met you, Fatimah. I'm you come at me with such warmth energy, and you're so funny. I love every conversation that I have with you. I feel like I get to walk away with bursts of joy, and so I'm glad that we got the chance to kiki over some films, and we can talk about them.
Yes. I'm excited. I'm very excited.
So tell us about Bring It On and White Chicks. How would you describe these films to a fellow homie?
Okay, so let's first start off with White Chicks. So I think if I'm talking to a fellow homie, I would explain White Chicks as this amazing parody of the interactions between white chick, and I would kind of just describe the film, right, without trying to give away too much. I would explain how funny it is and just kind of give them just a little bit of a teaser of some of the things that I enjoyed about the movie, and some of the things that I still use as everyday language. For example, there's a scene, if spoiler alert for all the non-cult classics who don't know about this awesome story, is the fact
this
that
whole podcast is a spoiler alert.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, I'm sorry, but we're getting into it.
We're going to get into it, all right? So it's kind of a parody of how these two black guys who go undercover and drag, if you will, to kind of infiltrate a top secret mission, but they have to go in as white chicks. And that's basically the synopsis of it, right? And everything that unfolds from there is just, in my most genuine opinion, still hilarious until this day because of the hyperbole. There's so much hyperbole, but the hyperbole, there's some truth in that, right?
Right.
As far as Bring It On, it's every black cheerleader's anthem. As a young child, I always wanted to be a cheerleader. I just had that oh my god, let's go. So it's always something that connected to me on a core level, especially because they win in the end. It was such a motivational type of movie because it just inspired at least me as a young woman to know that, hey, black people can flip too. We can do the representation of black people in cheer was such a big thing for me, especially at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, me too. I feel and especially with them winning, I watched that film with a bunch of my cousins. So imagine just all of your family members that are just repeating lines as they're coming, everybody's cackling throughout the whole film. But then when we get to the very end, the Toros get second place and we're okay, cool. But then the Clovers take first. And it's an explosion. I just keep hearing in my head, the black people won! Bah! And I'm just right, we are black. We won. I don't think as much as like blackness has been preached into my life, especially as like a young black kid in a predominantly white space, my parents wanted to make sure that I knew I was black, but I don't think it really like clicks in, you know, and
that part,
a situation like that, and I'm just like, oh right, yes, they were not the protagonist, but they should have been,
right?
You know?
Right.
But yeah, that's why do you think I wanted you to watch these films with me?
I think that they are just things that we don't even realize are embedded in our psyche, right? That's why they're called cult classics. And I think just being able to have someone to unpack this with, we literally watched White Chicks together and were able to quote the movie to each other. Like,
yes.
It's one of those things where it's so ingrained, and it's fun to know that we kind of laugh and have the same humor and kind of understand that, no, it's funny because there's some truth to it. And it's okay that truth exists, where no one's trying to demonize anybody for any of these things. I think that it brings some of the harder issues of like the differences between, I guess, white and black people, and just kind of make it funny.
Yeah, I'm like, white women love white chicks. At least that's what the reports say. So I think there's also just something to like, when comedy is really, really good, like nobody feels like they're being hurt. Like everybody has the opportunity to laugh.
Yes.
And even with Bring It On, like, this is definitely a white woman dominated movie, but even from your perspective, like, this is truly the Clover story. Like, they are the ones who, like, we see them go from the bottom all the way up to the top. They're rejecting help from their white savior who keeps trying to insert herself. But at the same time, like, she earns their respect because she does indeed do what they ask to just bring it. Like, come with your full attitude and let us beat you because we're better than you. Point blank period.
Period.
But I love it. So, Fatimah, let's talk about this impact then. What do you think we learned from these movies about white women specifically?
That's a good one. I think that we learned that even if it's from like a hyperbole perspective, how classism has shaped their perspective of the world, right? How being a white woman in society gives you this air of arrogance and entitlement that to a certain point is laughable, because it's just like, girl, calm down. Like, it's you not that bad. Like, I want you to realize, like, you're good, but
right.
We're like, and unfortunately, you do have people who don't have the ability to see themselves outside of this entitlement, outside of this just, oh, I walked into this because I'm a white woman. And it really highlights just and then there are also the aspects of the humility of it, or you begin to understand, like, oh wow, like, you're actually a down to earth type of person. It's just you've been exposed to all the not the wrong things, but to things that don't just kind of like it also makes the perspective accessible,
right,
in the sense of it going to just the fact of your point where you said, like, good comedy is where no one is no one feels targeted by what's being portrayed. And I think that was so important. It allowed us to step back and be like, oh my gosh, if it allowed me to be able to step into their shoes and be like, I can understand why you have this perspective, and it's funny because I can apply. It allowed me to be like, I can apply the same type of logic anywhere. I'll give you an example where she in White Chicks, where they got so upset and with the BF, right? They're gonna write a letter. Oh my God! Can we talk about how that right there, as funny as it was, I use that, like, I will write a letter, I will press and those are the things that
I do the same thing all the time. And the fact also that, like, all he had to do was write that first sentence, dear Mr. Royal Hampton, I am a white woman in America, because that's all you really need to say to get anybody riled up, to have somebody even listen to you. Like earlier in this series, we talked about a murder in Harlem, where there's like a white woman found dead in a chemical factory, and there's just like a note left behind that said the tall Negro did it. So when the cops come in, they're looking at the security guard who's like, oh my gosh, I found this girl, I found the body, and they're like, well, you're the tall Negro, and it's like, what? But I found her, like, it's not me. And it's like, well, the paper said it, and it's like, you mean this white piece of paper that didn't say anything else? You just gonna believe that over the human standing in front of you? So imagine this strongly worded letter that probably don't even have to be strongly worded, because Lord knows those girls didn't have that kind of vocabulary for sure. For sure. But the opening sentence would be all you needed to hear.
And the comedy behind weaponizing their white privilege, right? Mm-hmm. Female white privilege can be weaponized. And I think that is something that, even though it's funny, we internalize these things. And these are things that, because of the comedy, we're able to self-reflect and be like, hey, this is something that I know happens, but it's funny because it's like, well, hey, you gotta laugh to keep from crying type of situation. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why White Chicks is still so relevant, is because it does highlight these, what I would consider internalized ideologies of whiteness in America. And it's like, and that's why I love that line, because it's like, I can write a letter. Yes, and they don't know, and they don't have to know I'm a white woman, but I can sound like one from a letter. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that in I'm always the type of person, like, I'm going to try my hardest to turn a negative into a positive, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, the negative is like weaponizing white privilege and white female tears, right? And one of the things that I can use to combat that is like, oh, I can write a letter. You don't have to know I'm anything but what I am, but I'm able to write a letter. Right. So I think I took that as like, oh, if like white women had like an arsenal of tools that they can use, I'm like, I'm going to go into your bag. I'm going to get that. I'm going to put that over here in my pocket. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that's one of the biggest things. I'm like, it was a, if you will, research study. Like, what? Okay, all right.
Ain't that how it really go? And you know what's so interesting is in rewatching it, I was like, the actual Hilton sisters, or the Wilson sisters, are only on for like 10 minutes. They initially make 10 minutes of appearance, and that was enough of an impression to build 2 hours worth of content off of. So I'm just like, the fact that they were able to just like, quote back almost everything that they said and could be applied in any situation to just like push their way forward throughout this plot. Like, that's how white privilege truly works, is just like having the confidence to move forward as if no was never an option.
Hey, thank you. Yes, you better say it that, as if no was never an option. And I feel like that is also a tool that watching this movie took away from me. I'm like, oh, they don't know how to take no for an answer. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So whenever I'm in spaces and I am, because my mom will tell you, my sister will tell you, anybody who's with me will tell you, I'm that person that the first thing I'm going to do is ask for permission before I the reverse. I'll ask for forgiveness before I ask for permission, right? Okay. And I feel like that concept was really highlighted in these type of movies, because when I'm limiting my greatness by asking for permission. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna go. I don't need. Oh, if I violate it, I'm sorry, but it's too late. You've already experienced my greatness. So I think that is something. I'm glad you brought that up. That, you know, when you're watching White Chicks, it's like, oh, like no is not an answer. So it kind of shifts you into a solution-seeking mindset, right? Where it's like, well, if this door is open, if this door is closed, I'm white, so another door is open somewhere. You know what I'm saying? And I took out the I'm white part, and I'm like, oh no, just another door is open. You said no just because, for whatever reason, but you're not the only person who I can get whatever I want from.
Right.
There are other people, but this is America. There's somebody somewhere I can go to. If it's not you, if you're the no, then somebody has a yes.
But you know what else is so interesting is that in tying this to bring it on, the assumption that you will also just like fall in line with what whiteness wants, and to like based on the appearance of being a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman, that you must I guess uphold the values of your predecessors, because now I'm thinking about Torrance, right? Who was handed this head cheerleader role because Big Red said, I trust you, I handed you the cheers, I handed you like a handpicked squad, everything was set up for you to succeed. But Torrance is like, but you stole these cheers from black people, like we've been profiting off of their work and that's just wrong. And she's like, who cares? Like, you're just supposed to pick up and keep going. Why are you asking questions? And I don't know, something about that and the never being told no. Like, I think Torrance kind of makes way in the story for the Clovers to actually have a story, even though they like shut down so much of her help. They're like, they don't need the direct handout from her, but just by her still, by acknowledging that they exist and that their cheers are theirs and not wanting to do something different, by wanting to prove herself, she kind of made the opportunity for them to actually show up in their own greatness, which is something that the Wayans kind of do for the other white woman at this Hampton party, because it feels like they really love being around the Wilson sisters now that they're black men, because they give them so much more permission to be themselves, because now they're starting to ask them like, well, what do you mean I have to like wear 2 sizes down or 4 sizes short in my shoes? Why can't we say the N-word when there's nobody around to offend? Even though that's fucked up, don't do that. But I'm like, no, not that. But
the scene was still funny though,
because everybody's still saying every word like they already knew it, like they already had been doing it. They've just been given permission to be themselves.
You know, you was screaming in your head, like, you know.
Yeah, I don't remember how I was connecting those two things, but they work together.
No, I think that to build on what you were saying, as far as like not being able to say no, not getting like the whole not no, and how, you know, Clover, I'm sorry, what was her name?
Torrance.
Torrance in Bring It On was willing to stand up and provide the space for these black women to come up. And I feel like that is the pivotal part of a common theme between both of these movies. Mm-hmm. Both of these movies are nothing without the true essence of blackness. Right? Mm-hmm. And I think if you take away the Wayne brothers, there is no white chicks. The whole idea that black culture is what it is and y'all secretly love it. Mm-hmm. And you benefit from it every single day. And to your point, to build off of that, for the podcasters that don't know, one of the things that I do on the weekend is I'm a party enhancer for bar and bat mitzvahs. And essentially it's a black owned company, and what we do is we go into these parties and we just be our black behind selves, okay?
Yeah.
And essentially we have bottled up some of the fun aspects of black culture, and that's essentially what we bring to the party. That's what it is. And I said this to the people that I was working with this weekend, where I was like, these kids love what we do because essentially it is black cosplay. Right? And that's what's at the heart of a lot of these movies. Whenever you're looking at, the fact that the Clovers are stealing black cheer, that's the backbone of everything. And it's just like, y'all are only great because we exist.
Right.
So without us, what are you guys? What is white culture? And that's something that I feel like it needs to be talked about. What is white culture or pop culture without blackness?
You know, according to white chicks, it's a lot of complaining. That's what it seems to be, because I'm like, what the Wayans brought was the resilience. I'm like, they brought the fight. They brought the friction to every situation, because even the women around them were just like, I can't believe you're speaking up. Like, do you know that these women will like crush us?
And
like we're sitting in the back now because of your little yo mama stunts. But it's like
the Vanderbilt Steel list, right? The Vanderbilt Steel list.
Exactly. But it's like, of course, these folks who now have the ability to stand in this privilege, to stand in this room with these people, are going to stand up to them, because they're just like, why would I sit down? That's the only way that I'm going to be seen. That's the only way you're going to be heard, is if you take action for yourself. But if you've never been in an oppressed place and you're only doing the oppressing, or you are a person who, I will say, experiences disadvantages, but not necessarily because of your race, white women. Like, yes, women are being disadvantaged. Like, gender inequality is real, but at the same time, yeah, I guess having like a man in this, a black man in a white woman's space, it's like that combo. There's like these bits of privilege that line up with the patriarchy and being in a white privileged space, but
say it again.
Still being marginalized as a black voice, but speaking it up through the body of a white woman who is still a marginalized person, but also has so much more power in this room. You're
Yes, I'm so glad you said that. So I actually came across a thesis that I read about, where it highlighted just how far black women are on the spectrum from white men. Mm-hmm. White men have so if we had to do a totem pole in how our society is built up, not in what it is in actuality, because if you ask me, black women are the foundation of every society across the globe. And that's just the truth.
Say it again. I mean,
but if we're looking at how this society has created this false totem pole, where you have white men at the top who benefit both from their privilege as men and their privilege as white men, so they benefit both of those ways. You have white women who are right under them, who are only marginalized because they're women, and to be frank, they are the only ones that benefited from the what is it, where they, like, oh, black people, you got it because you're black, and
the white supremacist culture.
No, that's not white supremacist culture. It's where they're like, oh, you guys only got in college because of
affirmative action.
Thank you. Affirmative action. White women were the group that benefited the most from affirmative action. So you have, because they can't be discriminated because of their gender now, right? So you have white women who are up there, then you have black women right under them who, yes, they're black, so they don't have that, but they still have male privilege, right? Where you have black women who both odds are against us. We're black and we're women.
Yes.
So when you look at white women and black men, they both have a class that they benefit from. Mm-hmm. And so when you see those linkages, they have a way of connecting to one another that's kind of tone deaf when it comes to how it affects the rest of the world.
Right.
And going back to the party that I just worked, I realized that so everyone, every now and again, you'll ask a stupid question. That's fine. That's okay. But a lot of these women were blonde women, classy women, well off, and, have husbands and all that fun stuff, right? So some of the questions that were asked were just like, girl, pay attention to your surroundings and you can kind of figure that out. But it's festive, we're having a good time or whatever. But these are questions that they asked me and they were sober. Like, so some of the questions like, wait, what button do we push on the elevator that only goes up one floor? Girl, what? So as I'm thinking about this, something hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, they have the privilege to be dumb.
I was about to say, they asking you because you the help. I'm like, you supposed to know everything, magical Negro.
Magical Negro. Right. It's just like, okay, it must be nice. It must be nice to just be able to cut your brain off, you know, and not have to pay attention to my surroundings, not always consider every single person that I interact with a threat, you know.
Yeah, that's like King Charles.
Yes.
Who don't know how to, like when he throws something in the trash and misses and has to call somebody in to pick it up for him because he really don't know what's going on. He's got like people to blow his nose because he just truly does not understand how to exist by himself when other people are right there to do it all for you. It's sad. And also, to bring it on, that's why even when you bring it and you've studied all the dances, you're still trying to invent something that is missing, like the heart and the passion and the personality that comes from just existing in these different cultures. And so I'm just like, that's where the flair is always coming from. I was just watching like an interview with Gabrielle Union, who was like, we're only in a third of the movie, but when they started testing it early with audiences, they were only caring about the Clovers. And they were like, well, we can't go back and shoot the film again and add more Clovers. So they just shot extra scenes for the trailer to make it look like the Clovers were there a little bit more, to like sell people on the fact that, nah, this is all about like the black folks. This is about the Afro-Latinas and the Asians coming together and like bringing their personalities to the stage. But that's not what it was. And so it's like you were distracted by all of this precision and white bread wonderfulness. But the real story is that the Clovers are the ones who have been freaking like bringing all the action and the dance and the impact, and they finally get to share it in their own bodies and their own faces. And man, even like when you get to the scene where they're at the game and they just show up and start doing the cheers right in front of them, like it's
you want to talk about standing 10 toes down and when they came
it's truly like, black and white, y'all. Like the difference is stark,
and it highlights just like the you've watered us down, and that's not okay. You've now taken our greatness and watered it down to make it palatable for y'all, and there's nothing original about that. There's essentially what was the foundation of TikTok for a while.
That's true.
A lot that like just all these white kids getting all this, you know, publicity and all this other stuff from essentially taking black moves and just doing them in a more watered down fashion, made it more palatable for other white kids.
And then remember the moment when black creators were like, nobody make a dance to this Meg song. I can't even remember which one it is. But it was like, nobody do it. Just let the white people figure it out. And the little shakes that you saw that weren't really shaking, it's like, I feel bad, Meg, because you could have had some mean ass dances, but we really just kind of had to let white people flop for a minute.
And I think that was the biggest thing that helped a lot of people see in real time just how, like, to the point of like the TikTok is that blackness is at the foundation of everything, and that's why they want to ban it. Like, of all the things that they could agree on, you know, education, healthcare, war, they decide
TikTok.
Yeah. But no, yeah, these movies, they just, I didn't even realize how much I've internalized so many different aspects from these movies. Until like we have conversations like this.
It's true. I'm curious because I feel like you said, cheer was not necessarily something that you were into before this movie. I same. I'm like, I have a cut around my ankle from trying to do the little Mickey dance at the end and just like pirouetting onto the edge of my bed. It wasn't cute. But it hurt. I went to the hospital. It's a whole story.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. Anyway, but I'm like, what is your white people shit? Like, what is the thing that somebody might claim is not for black people that black people could easily eat up, or that you are just like, I really love mayonnaise and here's why?
Oh, pumpkin spiced things.
That's fair.
I love pumpkin spice flavored things. And they're like, no, you shouldn't like pumpkin. It's the pumpkin pie versus sweet potato pie argument all day, every day. But if are we talking about just in general or in the context of these movies?
In general, what's your white people shit?
Okay. White people stuff is definitely that. It's also just the, so until we nickeled and coined the phrase Karen, like the Karen energy, where it's just, I'm not going to stop at a no, that's Karen. That's Karen all day. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, because some things just require that type of energy. You're not going to sit here and tell me anything. You're not going to sit here and lie in my face. Like, and going back to Beyonce's Renaissance, like, movie, like, that comes into play because even as big as Beyonce is and who she is and the caliber of performer and hard worker that she is, she still got pushback on something that she knew was available. And I'm specifically talking about the scene where they tried to tell her that the fisheye screen or video lens,
that big ass lens,
the lens that she wanted, he blatantly told her that it didn't exist. And she was like, well, I just looked it up and it does exist. So, and I have the money to get it done. So
who are you telling?
Who are you? Like, and I feel like the Karen energy is white people stuff. The whole, oh my God. All right. At another mitzvah. Okay. I was at another mitzvah and they had food trucks. It was outside. They had food trucks. The one food truck had like soul food. And y'all, for those of y'all that cannot see me, I am using air quotes. And so me and the DJ during a break, while people are like kind of like getting their food and everything, we go up to this food truck. We're kind of looking at the food items and we can see the mac and cheese. It's like a white mac and cheese, like the noodles are popping. It's sizzling in the back. So, we're looking like, oh, okay, hold on. They might got something going. They might have got it right. Okay. So we get some of it. And we kind of like go our separate way as we try to eat it because he's pulled in one direction, I'm pulled in another direction, right? So I'm eating it and immediately I put it in my mouth. And when I tell you, I was genuinely shocked that I could taste mayonnaise
in your mac and cheese.
Girl.
After it was boiling?
No.
Wait.
I was like, I know. I was like, be effing for real. I know. Y'all did not. Y'all actually do this? I thought we were joking.
Wait, no.
Yes, it was mayo in the mac and cheese, and it was just like it had like a tangy taste to it. That's how you knew something. I'm like, this ain't.
Because did they bake? Was it baked in? Was it just on top? Like where was the mayonnaise?
It had. I'm saying it had like a nice little crisp to the top. Like I'm telling you, we thought it was it. It was nice and cheesy and gooey.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's real white people stuff. Like y'all really be putting mayonnaise and stuff that shouldn't have mayonnaise in it, and mac and cheese is one of them. Like who taught y'all to cook? See, this is, oh my God.
Nobody, and that's the problem. Nobody.
And it got to a point where I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, for all the way from when slavery, and I don't know where I came across this random fact, but slavery, at the end of slavery and like all of that transition stuff also marked around the same time that instant processed foods also took a spike. Because you had a whole bunch of white women out here who didn't have their black people to cook for them, who didn't know how to cook, and it had to be quick because they just couldn't get it together, couldn't figure it out.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. So the whole time, this whole fast food trend was never about us, because we throw down just because we got the ancestors out here guiding. And I'm like, y'all ancestors must really hate y'all, because why they not talking to y'all when y'all cook?
Because they didn't know how to do it either. It's just a continuous line of, well, I don't know, what are they doing? Somebody else gonna do it for me.
Right.
Damn, that made me think about something, but the thought had disappeared. But also, I'm just gonna shout out this Icelandic reindeer that was on the menu. So it's just making me think about one of the homies, Rachel, was so excited to try it, and they're like, it's cured though. So that means it's just a slice of cold reindeer with sugar and salt. And we're like, how about no? She said, I think I'll do the African pork chops instead. She's like, great choice. But I'm just like,
I'll take the African pork chops for $500, thank you.
I'm like, just reindeer and sugar and salt. That's it. It's cold. But that's the meal. You know, there's just a cube of reindeer meat. But
eating raw meat is definitely a white people thing. All day, every day.
Sushi's thing.
Eating raw red meat.
Okay, yeah. That's some hunter-gatherer type shit. That's what I'm saying. Oh, and that's also what I was going to say. That processed food that nobody can afford because of economic inequality. So I'm like, so black people are also still growing their shit and still like using the resourcefulness of their means. Who's buying into instant foods until we have the opportunity to do so, and then that becomes the inexpensive option because now it's the unhealthy thing, and so now produce and fruits and vegetables have flipped and flopped, and now that white people are like, oh, but we need to be healthy, we should be learning from the people who have already been in touch with the land and have done all the hunting and gathering for us now. And it's like, God damn, ain't it funny how shit keeps flipping like this, you know?
Yeah.
The tides of whiteness really be...
The tides of whiteness. I'm hollering. Yes. The tides of whiteness is just... The ebb and flow of it is just... It's exhausting, to say the least. And I think that's kind of what these movies bring to the forefront. And they make it funny. So it's a kind of a palatable type of... Hey, these things are happening, but let's laugh it off and not really address the issue here. Unfortunately, that's kind of the caveat of these movies. If we don't actually take action to address them, I think sometimes we, can, especially as millennials, we are probably the most unserious generation of generations, and I want to say a part of it can be because of some of these movies where we're just like, that is effed up, but I can see why it's funny.
Yes. Yes. I like the fact that I think it was Sean Wayans came up with the idea originally because he just saw Paris Hilton and Nikki Hilton fighting somewhere at a hotel and was like, I think it'd be funny if me and Marlon did that. If we were just two white women being raunchy and righteous. And then this happened. Righteous. And after they sat through 7 hours of makeup every day, that's when they were like, I'm sorry, so this is what we're doing? And as Keenen, the older brother, is directing, he's like, remember, you wrote this. Remember that throughout this whole process. 65 days. I heard it was 5 to 7 hours of makeup, then 14 hours of shooting. They slept for like 2 hours a night for 65 days. Wild.
That's dedication. That is dedication. Okay? And you want to talk about just how the disparity between like how much labor as black people we have to put in, and that also highlights this whole thing, how much labor we have to put in to that whole, we got to put in twice the effort for half the reward is very high, because I'm pretty sure the white women are not in makeup for that long.
Oh, of course not.
Rest, and you know what I'm saying? So that's a layer I didn't even know. I'm glad you brought that up. That's, yeah.
But even to your point, because when this initially came out, like, it was getting terrible reviews. People hated it. Like, I actually found some of the older reviews, and they were just like, they're not actually saying anything. It's just a bunch of like fart jokes. It's men in drag. Who cares? But clearly, this film said a lot, and the actual audience had a lot to say about it. But the critics hated it. I'm like, the white woman in the movie claimed that they were embarrassed to have been a part of it. Yeah. And so I'm just like, wow, this was a true social commentary that still holds up to this day, but it wasn't given its roses. Nobody got the benefits from it in its time. And it's only the after effects. Like, it's only the people who like really get it that still bring it back up and build more ways for those opportunities to keep happening. Which brings me to my next question of just like, what do you think we can learn from ISIS's leadership? Because let me give you a quick fun fact, and I think I told you this before. Gabrielle Union truly crafted Isis, that character. She said that she was like debating between two cheer scripts. The other one was kind of like a horror, and then this one was just like about cheer empowerment. It was called Cheer On at the time. And she was like, I wanted to say yes, but also the script was really cringy. Like, the black characters talked like they were in a blaxploitation film. And so she was like, could I make some adjustments? And they said, yeah, sure. So she brought in somebody to like help rewrite the script, and every day they were like in her trailer just going, so what would Isis say here? What would Isis do here? Because she wanted to like actually make her a real leader, and not somebody who's just going, me gonna owl you with my long nails and sharp claws. So Isis really like stepping up to the toils on day one and just being like, look, I'm the new captain now. Get Raggedy Ann out of here. Even if y'all do steal our cheers this year, don't even worry about it, because I'm truly going to bring it, and I'm going to beat y'all down. I don't even need Buffy over here to beat you down. For real. I don't even need Buffy over here. Because we got that. Wow. But Gabrielle Union is also like, I feel like I could have gave her more depth. So I'm like, tell me more, Fatimah. Like, what do we learn from Gabby's true leadership in this movie?
So having that bit of background information, thank you for that, about how like Gabrielle Union brought so much life to this ISIS character. Also, let's go like put a pin in the fact that her name is Isis and the importance and significance of that figure in Egyptian and like Greek mythology. Right. She actually represents like the Virgin Mary, but like that's a whole other side of it, like just the empowerment of the name. I think the fact that Gabrielle Union took it upon herself to rewrite this character in a more like black woman empowerment type of image speaks volumes to the way that I feel like she knew how more impactful it could be for black women. And I want to take a moment to applaud her for that, because she could have ate any role she wanted to, let's be real, right? But the fact that she also took it upon herself to step back and be like, no, like cheer is already like hypersexualized. Let's like really look at it for the sport that it is. Right? That's one. Two, I think that there's also so much of the hypersexualization of black women in our society that it takes away from our humanness. It takes away from, no, you can't treat me like an object. I'm an actual person. And I feel like I can again applaud her for that, because there are so many women, especially in today's culture. I can name them off: Sexy Red, Cardi B, Meg Thee Stallion to a certain extent, because like even Meg Thee Stallion is like, I think she's pretty dope, just because like even though she owns it in such a more impactful and powerful. We'll put a pin in that, but I think that there was too much of it then, and there's way too much of it now. And for her to kind of like pump the brakes on it, really just one shout out to her. And but also when you flip the script, who is writing these scripts that over sexualize black women? Y'all need to stop doing that.
Right.
But it's the fact that it was written in such a sexual way. It's just like, y'all don't see how this is and it's not going to be a problem because the people writing it aren't black women, right? So they're not going to see it as, like, I've been trained to see black women as these hypersexual beings. So my natural portrayal as a playwright is to write them as hypersexualized beings. And it's just, again, I think that that's something that we can learn from her character, is the fact that no, black women are actual, like, women with character and integrity, and this is a sport, and we're about to outdo y'all because it's about sportsmanship. It's about the integrity of being like, no, who's the real champion, because we put our talent and our swag to the test. And that's what it comes down to, you know?
Yeah. And I'm like, this actually was written by a white woman, Jessica Bendinger. Yeah, so I mean, still to the point of just like, how is this the way that you were portraying black women? But also to the athleticism, shout out to Gabby again and the entire cast, because all of their stunts were done by them. They went to cheer camp and in 9 days learned every routine, every stunt. And she's like, every time they do one of those wide shots, she's like, there's not a lot of tight shots on our faces because they really want you to see us doing those moves. So I'm just like, that's them for real, flipping it up and down in the air. So, wow.
Again, another layer, them flipping themselves. Like, what?
Yes.
Didn't know that. That is amazing. And again, another testament of, like, just black women's greatness. But I mean, I can sing our praises all day, every day, but it's not until we have the opportunity, or give ourselves the opportunity and the spaces to push against, and not be afraid to push against these narratives that are trying to be thrown onto us. Right? And that's a huge issue with me currently right now, with the work that, well, you know, the side job that I have of a party enhancer, where you have these white girls who think Sexy Red is cool and know every word. And it's just like, it's cosplay because they can dibble and dabble in it and it not really affect their image outside of these walls.
Right. But
I have little black girls who attend these parties, and what I don't want them to see is me going off on this song, because I don't think that we should be singing about our coochie holes being brown. I think that puts the black woman's body a little too much on display for everybody who's listening, for white boys, for everybody. It's too much. And these parents are just letting us play this music. And I'm like, y'all need to stop playing this music. So Sexy Red is one person who I'm just like, don't play that.
I'm like, it's also just inappropriate for like a 13-year-old's party.
It is.
You know?
It is. Thank you.
I'm like, because even if you wanted to be that person who was like shaking your ass in your bedroom by yourself, it is in your bedroom by yourself. You know,
it's in
like
your bedroom by yourself. Yes.
To spread it to children is kind of irresponsible.
It's extremely irresponsible. And also, there's another song, and it's not about over sexualizing black women, but Freaky Friday, where he was oh my God, we got to talk about that. We should do a whole podcast on Freaky Friday, and how, like, the whole obsession with a white man being in a black man's body, and how excited he was to just use the N-word. Now, mind you, it was Chris Brown actually saying the N-word, but the portrayal is that, oh my God, as a white person, I can finally say the N-word. Like,
right.
And that was a problem in the party, because I'm just like, I'm watching every last one of y'all, and I dare y'all. I double doggy dare y'all. So there's this obsession, and I think there's these movies highlight the obsession that even white people may not realize that they have with black culture.
I'm like, but do they really not? I'm like, do y'all really not think that you're obsessed with it? Because it's kind of everywhere, you know? I haven't...
Well, when you go into something and you think that you are the creator and the originator of certain things, You think that you woke up like this. Like, I woke up a boss A-B. But no, you actually, everything that you are is a stolen replica of someone else's greatness. And that's a hard pill to swallow. I wouldn't want to see that about myself. If the roles were reversed, that's hard. It's hard to be like, oh, you're not her. I'm sorry.
You're right. I guess I'm just always baffled by racism. It's like racism is not funny, but also clearly it is. And it is because like the basis of the joke just doesn't make sense. So it's just like, who are y'all to think these things? Yeah. I do want to like kind of wrap us up a little bit, but also just wanted to mention my kind of white people shit is mayonnaise.
Yeah, what's your white people stuff? Sorry.
My white people stuff is I do like mayonnaise. But also no, I think mine is really swimming. I know so many black people who love going to the beach and don't get in the water.
We serve looks all day.
Yes, but I'm like, no, I'm a dolphin. Like, I'm just out here floating for hours. I love it. But no, it's not that many people who can join me. So I don't know. That's not, and I don't necessarily blame black people. I'm like, when you jump off the ship and you chain to 20 other people, there ain't no real chances. But I was on a swim team for 5 years. And I was.
That's so cool.
Yes, but it was like I was one of the only black kids on the swim team. So every year it's the team photo, and they put me in the middle with my bathing suit because I never bought the team bathing suit. I guess they were expensive. So everybody's in racer green, and I'm just in hot pink, just my little braids and my cap. So that's me. That's my white people shit.
Also, our hair can only tolerate but so much. Let's be real.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There's so much work that goes behind the maintenance of our hair. I feel like that is like kind of a reason why black women may or may not, at least for black women, I don't know about black men, but for black women, the maintenance of our hair.
Yeah. Well, now that's why they make like true waterproof swim caps, because the ones that I had, the way you're supposed to use them, and maybe this is because I'm surrounded by white people, but you dip them in the water first to get it wet, and then you have to stretch it over your head, and it's so tight because that's how it seals it all together. But that means it's just literally like rubber and water that is just like pulling and condensing on your head the whole time. But now I know that they make like swim caps for black people, so it's supposed to be like taking care of your hair. So now I haven't tried it. Yeah. So I'm like, come on, everybody, jump in the pool, get a swim cap. Let's be in like, is it the 40s or the 50s where swim caps were just like casual?
Oh, I don't know. I think it was I want to say the 50s.
Yeah, color TV.
Yeah.
Cool. So any final thoughts from both of these movies?
Oh, white people stuff that we can easily do. There are a lot of white people stuff that we can easily do. Figure skating. That's just like the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I always wanted to be a gymnast. Like, go to the Olympics and like do all the flipping. Oh my God.
Would love to.
And now that Simone Biles is like dominating, she has blazed a trail for so many other black kids, and I love her for that. But what was your question? I'm sorry, I wanted to piggyback off of.
Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts.
But also, I'm like, to your point, I'm like cheerleading too, because I'm like, I was a cheerleader for 1 year, but honestly, it was so much fun. Like, I wish I had done it a lot sooner. I just wanted to play football, and I was mad that I was never allowed to, so I was like, fuck it, I'll be a cheerleader.
I know, and that's why I did powder puff in college. Yeah.
Same.
Oh no, sorry, that was high school. We did powder puff in high school.
But same.
Yes.
But yes, final thoughts.
I wasn't a cheerleader for very long. There were a lot of scary things about being a black cheerleader in the hood. And one of them being like the fact that I was unfortunately, yes, I would say I grew up in essentially the hood, but because of the type of mother that I had and the type of parents that I had, like, I already knew that education was, like, super important, right? So I took school seriously. Like, I, did my work, and I talked in full sentences because that's how I was taught to speak. Not because I thought I was better than anybody. And I feel like that played a role in how I felt accepted amongst other black girls on my team, right? Because I know I'm amazing. Like, and that's just because it's something that I love and I put my all into things, right? But to be made that I felt like, oh, well, you only think you're amazing because you can talk full sentences, and it's like, huh? Like, there was no space for me to unpack all of that, right?
Right.
And I think that was one of the reasons why, at least for me, I never really pursued cheer, because it was something that I didn't feel safe to pursue, because it was like, all right, well, y'all obviously are on some BS. And then there was at that time, there was just like, I wasn't trying to set myself up to be bullied by nobody at the end of the day. Like, y'all got it. Cheer ain't that cool to me anyway. And then I transferred schools. So, and then I found theater and all my awesome friends that we know now.
Yes, and you still get to perform, scream and shout on stage, and you can bring it on the musical someday.
Yes, here we go. But yeah, so those are my closing thoughts. I think that these movies highlight kind of the cosplay that blackness has become in America, and we didn't see it for what it was then, but kind of reflecting on these things, that's exactly what it is. It's blackness being cosplay. And how do we feel about it now? Is it something that's harmful, or is it something that we can continue to allow to happen, or is it something that we should put a stop to?
Yeah, I mean, stop all things that harm and hurt other people.
Right. But is black cosplay harmful?
Yes.
Why?
Run it back. I feel like I missed something.
So if we're talking about black cosplay, I don't know, I feel like I'm making up the term, but if we are talking about like just putting on blackness for just the benefit of what blackness, for funsies, for the benefit of it, without having any type of repercussion or the negative things that just come from blackness. Like, you could just wear blackness just because it's cool to wear, and then you can put it down when you're done. Is it a bad thing? Is it the same as anime? Is it the same as, Star Wars, where we're just these characters? Is it more than just our culture? Like, and what is black culture? And we know what black culture is, but when you have people that like to blur the lines and say, well, oh, you guys didn't invent that, that's always been a thing. It's like, no, we're actually at the heart of every music that you listen to, but you guys have infiltrated and then try to take it over. And does black cosplay provide the space for that to continue to happen? For all the Elvises in the world, for all the, the people who, for the Taylor Swifts of the world, where if you think about it, Taylor Swift is like a mid singer. Don't get me wrong, I love some of T Swift songs, but when you compare her to Beyonce can sing any Taylor Swift song, but Taylor Swift cannot sing any Beyonce song.
I'm like, Beyonce could eat anybody on anybody's song.
Facts.
But also, yes. Okay, so that is what I thought you were saying, and then I don't know why my brain farted and was just like, should black people not cosplay? I was like, did I miss something? I'm like, what?
And as a black person, that's great. So as a black person, can we actually cosplay our own culture? That's another thing.
Ooh, yes. Because I think that's what like American Fiction is about. I think that's what Bamboozle was a little bit about. That's what the Candace Owenses are. The folks who are like stepping into this black face as a representative of something, but not promoting the culture, the passion, the identity that comes behind it. Even though like blackness is so multifaceted, but
that part,
there are some ways where it's like, even though Candace Owens is a black woman, in the understanding that blackness can be a socio-political identity, it's like her blackness is still separated from her because she is not coming from whatever that space is. Like it's a new form, and not necessarily new because we got the Latrells, we got the Uncle Ruckuses in the world, right? But like black conservatism is taking on its own new form, I think, in a space where it feels like right now conservatives are using black faces as political puppetry that still aren't necessarily pushing forward black agendas, black issues, and that's what separates it from its own space. But also to the point of cosplaying as black people, I do think that is a term. I've also heard black fishing, where you see folks like who put on the braids, who like have their lip fillers, but then the second it's Black Lives Matter, then they're like, well, I'm not a black life. So, and it's like, but you've been promoting yourself as if you were one. You've been taking what could have been black dollars and just like putting your black features onto a screen and still collecting it into your white pockets. The same way that white people were doing blackface, it's literally the same thing. You're taking black features, you're taking black culture. Even now, where I'm seeing like a lot more videos of like
that's good.
Asian folks who are now like going through like hours of barbershop treatments to get the curls.
To get the curls. I didn't even know. I'm offended, intrigued, and I feel like I should be proud at the same time. Like it's such a weird feeling. Like y'all like blackness that much, you were willing to sit through this process. That's the like cool.
But
thing,
also
but
you don't.
But then you don't, because it's just like, yeah. And then I was offended, and I'm like, because you're not here supporting black lives, but you want to pretend to be one.
That's what I'm saying. The first time I saw somebody's curly fro in the club, and I was like, what? As this person continues to try to not make eye contact with me, and I'm like, you know you wrong. You know you fucking wrong, bro. I feel the same. I felt the same way about like K-pop and hip-hop, because at first I'm like, I mean, but hip-hop is its own like rebellious music and sound, like that it's birthed from black people. But I'm like, yeah, y'all in your country using rap and hip-hop to also like try to take down your governments and your institutions and to speak words that you like literally cannot. Like I know there's like, I'm not even going to name it, but I know there is a country out there that is only allowed to like have patriotic songs and love songs, like nothing else. I think it's
North Korea. I'm kidding.
Yes,
I don't know,
but I think so, because
I'm
like,
kidding. I don't know if this.
But that's why I'm like, is it North or South? It's one of the K's in the pop, you know, because I'm like, that's where the rap is coming from. So I'm like, hip hop, I don't know, it keeps like being that bridge. It feels like the music has been a way for people to try to break into the genre, not the genre, into the culture. But then the fashion comes along with it. Then it's the language that comes along with it. Again, you want all the rhythm, but not the blues.
Ooh, bars. You want all the rhythm, but not the blues. Yes, that was a word right there. Like,
it's a problem.
Yes. So I think we can conclude that black cosplay and all of this stuff is a bridge that just allows our culture to be raped in a sense and taken, and we just we can just take it and use it and profit off of it, and y'all are still, you know, we still don't have laws that protect blackness. We still are a target in a country that we support, that we built. So yeah, we need to dismantle these things. And how white chicks and Bring It On, like they bring it to the surface and make it palatable, but at the end of the day, like, this is something that shouldn't be palatable. This is something that we should be appalled by. This is something that we should, you know, just, we're so open-minded and all these other things. And you don't see Asian people being open-minded about their stuff. You don't see Native Americans being open about their stuff. You don't see Hispanics being open about their stuff. But these are also groups that can benefit from whiteness. Indians, they're not open about their stuff. Like, there are so many different groups of people of color who protect their culture.
Yeah.
As you should.
Yeah. But then what becomes sad about that is like when we have all these like mass genocides or like the extinction of certain tribes or people, because like all of that culture and history is oral and just like left in the people who have them. So I don't know, it feels like there's a conversation where some people keep trying to move to like a raceless world, you know, like as much as our race matters to box and hold the culture, then there's still this idea of like, okay, but then what happens beyond? Like Beyonce being like, I am so glad that I'm the first black female country, whatever, but I can't wait till the moment where we live in a world where I don't have to say the race first, where I can just be and even in her like innovator speech, and she's talking about like, oh yes, I am the innovators of the world, the Andre 3000. She's naming all black people, but not necessarily naming black as the thing, just people. I don't know. So I'm like, it's a complicated issue, these social structures we have here.
I think it all comes down to, how do we take the movements that we've done in the past as black people and build on them and make them better? And unless and until we come together and we study that and actually like study it for ourselves and move together as one on it, it's going to keep happening. And you can't tell me that we aren't studied and have not been studied and are continuously studied all the time. That's how they know how to market to us. That's how... And it's so insidious, and that's the problem. It's insidious. It's under the guise, it's the Trojan horse. We constantly are hit with Trojan horse after Trojan horse and the Trojan horse, and we're told to keep an open mind. Hold on now, because we keep keeping an open mind. Y'all keep trying to gift us these Trojan horses, and the result of it is the rape of our people. How many times are we gonna keep accepting that?
Oh, you can't. I don't think anybody's really trying to accept it.
And we accept it on so many different levels. We accept it every time we listen to Sexy Red. We accept it every time we listen to these artists who are not uplifting black people. And they are, and to be honest with you, the artists are deplorable, because there are certain things there's certain songs you shouldn't be singing about. You know that, and they'll be like, oh, well, you shouldn't let your kid listen to me. Or just not make that song because it doesn't uplift your people. But anyway, and it also comes down to the parents, and it comes down to what we want to teach our kids. And when we decentralize the importance of our children, that in and of itself is the problem. How do we see this affecting our kids? That's all I'm looking at when I look at any of this stuff. I don't like Sexy Red because if I had a daughter, and I don't have a daughter, I don't have any kids. I have nieces, though. And I'm looking at the fact that I don't want them affected by this. This is not what black women are, and the fight against that needs to be bigger, because you got aunties, you got nanas in the club dancing to Sexy Red. And I'm like, girl, you're bugging. But it goes back to...
I too am here on the get it sexy. But I do understand. I would also not play this around children. And even though like this sexy is like a black woman and a version of a black woman, like it's an option and not necessarily that something that you may want to encourage. There's still so many options that you could be. It's like, if you do become exposed to this, it becomes a talking point in a lesson of like, this exists in the world, and it exists out of somebody's journey for expression and freedom, and at the same time, because of that and because of the context of the world that we live in, this is just taking as one representative and being used as an image to uphold a lot of other negative stereotypes that come along with the image of Black women. Yeah, so I'm like, again, it's complicated.
Okay, I hear you. Okay, so I didn't think about it from the liberating aspect of just being able to talk about these things because they are these things. I think that I just learned a word recently. It was like lasciviousness, and it's unbridled sensuality. And I didn't know what unbridled meant, so I also looked that up. And unbridled means uncontrolled. So lasciviousness is uncontrolled sensuality. I think that unfortunately sometimes in these spaces the two can be, when you talk about the freedom of expression versus decency, right? Those two topics kind of like don't complement one another, right? And so with the sexy reds of the world, you unfortunately, this freedom of expression, this form of expression, isn't more harmful than good, is what we really have to weigh out, right? And as women, you know, you and I who grew up on like the Cheetah Girls and like women of caliber, so we know the difference. Like, we know the difference. We know, like, she drawing, but it's still fun. And
yes,
because we can dissect that doesn't mean the rest of the world can. And how much responsibility do we owe to the rest of the world when we put these images out there? And you have a whole group of white people or white men or men in general who fetishize Black women and their bodies because of this music. And how do you combat that? How do you combat a person who's never had an experience with a Black person at all, and they're getting fed these images, and it's like, oh, is that what Black women are? And no, it's not our fault that that's what they use to judge us instead of actually going and interacting with Black people for themselves. But if I feel like something is unsafe for my child or unsafe for me, I'm not going to want to interact with it, and that's just that.
Right.
So how do we... And that's what I'm saying, like, that's where I'm like, how much of our image and just this freedom of expression do we owe to ourselves as Black women? What do we owe it to ourselves to protect our own image? I think we should.
I hear it. And I agree. I'm just like, I think in that idea of like, how do we hold space for freedom and I guess just like the legacy of the image of us, like how do we uphold our culture as a whole? I think that's, again, where we come back to the conversations, the personal education. Like, how do you engage with the people around you with the experiences that you can? I think that's where every parent is like, I'm going to parent my kid my way. Like, I know they have to go out into the world, but when they come back in my house, like, these are the ways that we talk about this. And I think that's the best that you could do for anybody, is give them some tools, some information that's like, here's what you're seeing, here's the context behind it, and then here are the choices that you get to make moving forward. So,
oh my gosh, it burns my gears, because we are the people like you and I, who we know how to rear children. Like, we know how to guide them. We love being around kids. Like, this is something that I feel like we do effortlessly, right? But we're also haven't procreated. We don't have kids, so we don't to the effect of being able to mold the minds of more young people. I feel like there are more people who unfortunately allow their kids to listen to this music than there are that not.
Right. Well, also,
and aren't providing the context for their kids.
No. And that's always been the problem. I mean, like, that was the whole issue with 2020 in general, with white kids just now coming home being like, so can we talk about George Floyd? Because now That's all we're talking about. And it's like those conversations that like black families have with their children on like how to protect yourself. Like, you have to see yourself as a black child because the world also sees you as black. White children just see themselves as children until they are put into racialized situations where it has to be addressed. So I'm just like, same thing with gender issues, with economic issues. Like, I'm a whole non-binary femme, so I'm in the way that I present myself totally changes the way that I engage with the world, the way that the world engages with me. But my skin does not change. The context of my skin might change depending on what country I'm in. But it's still me, you know. I'm still, anti-blackness still exists in the world always. And so that has to be the lesson that comes from those who get it. And if you don't get it, then you have to teach. But also, not everybody has to be a teacher. Not everybody should be teaching because not everybody's got the right information to teach. I
don't think everybody should be procreating either. That's just me too. But you know,
for real. But I'm like, but then you get into some of those scary lines where some people are like, well, then who should be? You should regulate that. And it's like, no.
I don't think we should regulate it either. So it's like, we're not gonna talk about that one. We're gonna just go past that.
But even though we're not parents, I'm like, we are still educators. We're still influencers. We still exist in a society with children. And I think we in America also have like a very individualistic culture, and we keep moving into more individualism. So it feels like we're straying away from the community, the collective, the village that builds up the minds of the youth. But at the same time, I'm like, but we still have that influence. We still can. I'm like, in every child that you interact with your own nieces and nephews, like, you take the moments that you can to talk to them about what they're experiencing and what they can do with their experience. Like, outside my own house, there are kids who constantly come home from school and they're just like throwing glass on the ground. They're shooting BBs and just throwing toilet paper. Like, they just wreak havoc. And like, I've written signs. I've tried to talk to them as I can. I've also heard other neighbors who are like, who's your parents? Get them on the phone right now, because I don't know who you think you're talking to, but I'm gonna need to talk to whoever is talking to you. Right. And so I'm just like, those kind of interactions, like, we can't be afraid to interact with other people. And I know, like, again, that's my child, you're not gonna tell me how to parent my child. Okay, cool, bro, but for real, like, let's talk about like how they're engaging with the rest of reality, because like, you are raising a citizen, you are raising a person who exists in the world, and the way they move through the world affects the rest of us. So I'm like, your problem is my problem and my problems are your problems, and that's what we need to learn from all of these movies.
That's beautiful. It's a beautiful summary. Yeah, but I mean, woo.
Yes.
That was good.
Yeah, white chicks, bring it on. Well, thanks so much for joining me today, Fatimah.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
Yeah, I feel like we got to talk about a lot. So I'm just like, shout out to these two movies for bringing such juicy content and culture for us to keep diving into like 20 something years later.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, shut up. It's been 20 years.
Oh, Bring It On came out in 2000 and White Chicks came out in 2004. So 24 years for Bring It On and 20 years for White Chicks.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Holy mother of God. Okay. All right. Wow. Okay. Sheesh. It's crazy because I'm still 25, so I don't understand like how that happened.
I'm like, I just turned 27, but that's weird to me.
But yeah.
I just heard an old podcast episode where I'm just like, I just turned 25 yesterday, and I was like, wow, you did? That's wild.
That's crazy.
Because I swear I'm still you, bro. Like,
I'm still you. Like, I stopped counting after that. Like, stop.
But okay, yes. Peace out. Thanks for listening. Follow, like, subscribe, tell your other homies, tell your enemies. If you don't like the podcast, then recommend it to somebody you don't like, so that way they can still run our views.
And to still support too, amen?
Please, because we trying to monetize. Let's go. Thanks, Fatimah. Do you have any like soapbox moments that you need? Anything? Any 2 cents? Any plugs?
Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. I don't know. No, I don't have any plugs. I work. I do my 8 and skate. And I mean, I do real estate, but that's pretty much it. I try to stay out of the way. You know what I'm saying?
That feels good. Yeah. All right, dope. Well, thanks. Peace out.
Okay, thank you for having me. You stay awesome. I love you. And yeah, it was awesome. Bring it on.
All right, bye.
Bye.